Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It is good to be with you. I'm here on YouTube. I'm here on Facebook. I'm here on Instagram. It is always a pleasure to get ready to field some questions on mind-body work. Whatever it is you've got on your mind, you let me know. That's the key variable is what's on your mind. It'll come out in your body. So we do have some preloaded questions. People have sent me questions either through email, or these might be questions that came up in comments on the different videos. But I kind of collect the ones that I think highlight things that people need to hear about, or maybe if they want to, if they wanted to ask these questions, I will certainly share it with them. Chuck Brown Productions, that's Terry. I see you on Instagram. Good to see you. And Dorothy P, Susan W, hello. We've got Dorothy P says good evening, so somewhere it's evening for her. I don't actually know your time zones, although I thought you were in California. I may have lost track of things, but it's good to see everybody. So let's get started. I'm going to do a preloaded question. This one is from Daphne S. Daphne actually went to grad school with me, so particularly familiar with her. But she asked a question that I thought was really important. So we've got a question about the volume. We've got a question that the volume is a bit low. So if my producers can let me know off the side. Dorothy's in New York. Okay, so it is evening for you. Same time zone as me. So Greg or Courtney, just let me know if the volume seems low, and I will certainly try to speak into the mic more, because every once in a while it's that. But we'll start with Daphne's question, and let's leave this up so that people can read it along with me. I realized tonight that my biggest doubt is this fear that there is this vicious part of me that relentlessly keeps creating symptoms. So how can this little monster, in quotes, be stopped in order for all the good work we'll be doing actually get me better? What if there is a part of me that is my greatest enemy in getting better? Well, I have thought about those kinds of things, because for a long time I did feel that my body was my enemy. It was making me miserable. My back pain was one of the most miserable experiences I ever had. And it would be hard not to see the body as the enemy in that situation. But the more I looked at it and the more experience I got with it, the more I came to see that actually your body is doing two things at once. We could see it as the enemy when it is distracting us from pain, but really it's actually protecting us, right? And at the same time, and this is, Linda Lardy says, oh my God, I have that monster's little twin. LOL. Not really funny, but humor helps. It absolutely does help. Sometimes we have to laugh to get through, but you know what else we need to get through? We need relief, actual relief. And the actual information gets us relief. And this is an important part of how to think about that so-called monster. That monster is not taking it out on you. That monster is actually empathizing with who you are at your core. This is where the power column comes into play, and I've definitely found this to be the case. My body does not cause me any symptoms unless something is not right in my world. And here's the thing. It only causes a symptom if something's not right for me. It's the one that's in my corner even before I am. And so I want you to try to think about it that way. You're not going to have to worry about that little monster causing trouble, because that little monster is actually trying to get you to have a more powerful and happy life aligned with you. As soon as you get that, it's not going to be doing those monstrous quote-unquote things. It is in your corner. Now, I may need to answer more questions from you all out there about why I think that way or how I can be certain about that. But it certainly is what we've seen in terms of how it works. As soon as people feel powerful, they feel better. We see the power column go up in terms of how powerful people feel within the power column, and they get better. So it fits with what we know. It fits with the theory, but it also fits with what we know about trauma. Trauma stores itself in the body, and the body is the one that knows. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk says. So it is the thing that is going to be behind you all the way. All right. Hopefully I did answer that well enough, but Daphne, you can let me know if not. or anybody else can let me know if not. This is a question for everybody. All right, we've got a question from Matt A., another return commenter. Matt, welcome back, although I don't know if you're here with us live, but this was a great question, and I had to voice it. Okay. All right, it looks like they've taken care of the sound issue, if there was one. Julie Ebby's making a comment. She's in my seminar, and tomorrow we're doing the power, the day on the power column, and she says, power, power, power. Can't wait. Right there with you. I absolutely understand. So we're going to get to Matt A's question, and then I will get to Mira Lee's question. Good to see you on YouTube. Okay, Matt says, we know that antidepressants only work for a third of people. That's, roughly what they say from clinical studies, I think. Do you feel that as we learn more about MBS, that's mind-body syndrome, we will realize, especially for the length of time it takes for them to work, that the industry for antidepressants will no longer be needed? I, for one, think they are causing more harm than benefits because it is an unnatural way to alter the brain chemistry. Your thoughts? Great question, and let's leave it up there because I want, as always, I want to think about this a little bit. I want to say hi to Jasper Hitchcock. I see you on Instagram. Good to see you. I see Gina Rager on YouTube. She says hi, and she's in my seminar too, so welcome. All right, let's get to this question about antidepressants. It's a very important one. I have actually tried antidepressants before at a time where I was having a lot of anxiety. And I had resisted the idea of taking them. But when you get to a certain point, when you're having that much discomfort, whether it's anxiety or it's a pain, it's hard not to go the medication route when they say it can help. So I tried it, and I will tell you what I found. What I found is that as I came to understand that my anxiety, or my depression for that matter, was essentially a mind-body symptom, I did find that I never needed antidepressants. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who do. And I want to be very clear about that. I have absolutely no judgment for anybody who takes them. They can help people through certain periods of time. It did help me through that anxiety time. It's another way to address it. What I do agree about is that ultimately, if we can understand things in the right way, they wouldn't be needed. I'm not saying it judgmentally, like they're a horrible thing or people who are taking them are doing something bad or not thinking about it right. But I think that the good news is brain chemistry goes right back to where it was very quickly. Brain chemistry can change quickly. We're moment-to-moment beings. However we are, that alters how we're thinking about things, and then that alters the physiology. So I don't know about whether they're doing more harm than benefits. I would say this. I don't think that the benefits outweigh some of the downsides. I don't know that I'd say harm, because I don't think that they actually do a lot of harm in the long run. That said, I don't know. I don't know what the clinical studies have shown. We'd have to look into that more. But I think that the bottom line is, if people understood that the mind-body was the one that was controlling a lot of these symptoms, yes, I think antidepressants will really no longer be needed by most people. There are people who are going to have some extreme situations and they could really use the help. But essentially, in my experience, antidepressants are a little bit of a numbing kind of agent. Sometimes you do need some of that, but it's not something that I would that I wanted to be on for a long period of time. I was on it for a while because actually, interestingly, I got worried about the withdrawal symptoms, and I had to work on the fact that was mind-body also. So one of the things that can cause a problem with antidepressants is they can be disempowering for the people who are taking them. It feeds the idea that we're kind of stuck in this and we have a problem that can't be addressed any other way. Rhonda Galone says, hi, I just wanted to say hi to you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This question is from Mira Lee. That's off of YouTube. She says, many people in the TMS world describe the recovery as zigzag, up and down. Why is that? Pain starts to go down, then bam, out of nowhere, things flare. Then you're defaulting in all columns. Okay, let's leave this up there again. As you know, I like to read it over. But Mira, this is a great question. And I would say the reason that your columns can feel weak at certain points, so they don't feel like they're in a good place, is that We're moment-to-moment beings. So you're going to have good days, and you're going to have bad days, and you're going to have good moments, and you're going to have bad moments. And let's say you didn't get a lot of sleep one night. That can alter things. Or you had a bad dream, or you had a bad experience. Suddenly your whole physiology is different because your whole mindset is different. So the reason there's a zigzag in everything is that we are always changing. I think the way to get it to be less of a zigzag, though, is to get it to a place where you feel very well organized and confident in what it is that you're seeing. And that's where my 3-column system, I think, really does help. It gets you organized. It makes you much less panicked. The doubt column won't get all out of control. But here's another thing. Doubt is going to fight back. So when you're making progress, bam, out of nowhere things flare because it is going to try to get you to doubt. That's a big part of it. Here's another reason. The emotions column. You can be fine, and then something happens emotionally, and bam, there you go. You're getting a big mind-body interaction. Really, any one of the columns can flare, and they can flare at any time, but this is an important distinction. Just because they can flare at any time doesn't mean that's happening randomly. If you can understand why they flare when they flare, then it starts to feel less zigzaggy and more like you're just having your life experience. It flares when something hard happens in one of those columns. So, Mira, let me know if that answered your question. I will say this, though. Most people do find it is not a linear experience. There are some people who get those book cures, but even they tend to not have a totally linear experience after that. So mostly there is no linear experience. We're moment-to-moment beings, and that's just the way it is. Let me know if that answers your question, Mira. Okay, we've got a question coming in from Instagram from Jasper. If you catastrophize about your pain, should we be doing the columns or trying to calm the body and mind? Oh, that's a good question. So here's the way I would think about it. I would say that the columns work is really, in some ways, always the way to go, because calming the mind is part of the columns. Like if you have fear and you decide to meditate, you're working in the doubt column right there. So I think one way to think about it, Jasper, that would probably be the most helpful is don't distinguish between the two. Fold what's good about the calming of the body and mind into the rest of the work. Just think of it as a part of the doubt column. But the other part of the answer is that it really is going to depend. Sometimes you're going to need that calming effect right then and there. If you feel really out of control, try it. Look, my system really, this is not an eloquent way of putting it, but it is true. My system is in part built around do what works. And build your system the way it works for you. Maybe you find that the minute the anxiety hits, if you meditate, you feel better. Or if you find some other way to calm down. Or if you're working with acupuncture or, something like that. There's all kinds of ways to kind of calm things down. And if it works for you, great. What I would say, though, is even if you're doing that, don't see it as outside of the realm of the columns work. It's just a part of the column work. It could be a way that you're asserting power, is to say, I'm going to get myself calmed, and that's going to help me, and now I'm not so worried. Okay, I wanted to say hi to Lufflily. I think I have that right, on Instagram. Good to see you. All right, we are going to jump back to the YouTube questions. Amira did say, yes, thank you. You nailed it. That's good to hear. Poor sleep, extra stress, and a couple bad dreams. Yep. Listen, any day you're a different person. Any part of the day you're a different person. I'm not the same person I was this morning. I have similar traits. I'm still the same guy overall, but I'm in a different headspace than I was before. So, every day is an odyssey, and there's something kind of nice about that in a way. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, Linda Alarde says, trauma work has revealed that early on I learned to feel unsafe in my body. Studies have indicated that exercise works better than... this is actually a different comment, I think. So I'm going to go with the first one. Trauma work has revealed that early on I learned to feel unsafe in my body. Absolutely. Listen, one of the things that I frequently say that's pretty important, I think, is when people ask me, if I can't feel it, if I can't get in touch with my feelings, but my body is feeling this way, what do I do? Is there any way for me to get in touch with my emotions? And I say to them, you don't have to. Your body is experiencing it for you. If you take your body at its word, you know how it felt. It's like not a verbal communication, but it is a communication of how it felt. So if you feel anxious and like just something's not right in the sense of doom, that's what you felt right there. Linda was responding, though, to the antidepressants question of Matt A., and she said, studies have indicated that exercise works better than antidepressants if the person is able to be active. I totally believe that. Exercise does go a long way. What I think is the mistake that people make, though, is that they hear that one thing helps, and then they think that's the thing to do. And I understand why, because it's overwhelming. Otherwise, you're just constantly doing all kinds of things. You're running around, literally in the case of exercise, trying to do so many different things. What I find is most helpful is to get the system organized, to understand what it is that you're doing. So just like I said with Jasper's question about calming the body and the mind, exercise is an action step that you could say, maybe it relates to the power column. I'm going to go get active. Or in the vein of Sarno, I'm going to confront my own mind and show it that I'm fine. I can resume normal physical activity. Or maybe it's a way that it's an action step in response to the emotions column, where when I get upset, I need to be alone and I need to be active and I need to do things like that. Boom, you've got your action step. I would say it doesn't matter which column that you're treating with these things if it works. And that's kind of true. But the other thing that I want to say is it's very useful to know which column you're working in. Which one is the primary one? Just so that you have it organized in your mind. So you can go for a run, let's say, or in my case, play basketball, to try to combat maybe feelings of anxiety. But that could happen from any one of the columns. Are you anxious because you're having doubt? Are you anxious because of an emotion that came up? Are you anxious because you're not feeling powerful? So it's always good to know more about why what is going on is going on. Okay, question from Dorothy P. Can you expand on withdrawal symptoms being mind-body? So many people suffer coming off benzos or opioids. Have you seen success with using techniques with that? That would be a miracle for so many. I see your comment, Jasper. I'll get to you. And Jane Bullon, I see you also joined. Good to see you on Instagram. So, Dorothy, this is a great question. And listen, I am still gathering information on lots of things. I am my own scientist. I am my own logic seeker. And I continue to gather information. But I will say this. I have gone through 2 potential type of withdrawal experiences, or at least experiences of trying to manage physiological symptoms caused by a medication and see what the effects are. The first one you guys saw, if you did see this video, of when I got my second COVID shot. I didn't know what the shot would cause. I didn't know, we hear all kinds of things. But I figured, you know what, why not do an experiment? I'll do an experiment with myself and see if I can challenge the potential triggers, if they were triggers, that were causing symptoms. And if you watch that video, you'll see I had like hundreds of different triggers come up, different ideas that the mind body was like, well, maybe you could get a fever, or maybe you could get this ache, or maybe this. And I fought them all, and I mostly was totally fine. What does that mean? I don't even know. I don't know what, but I do have a conclusion that I'll let you know about soon. Then, as I was reducing antidepressants, I had experiences of like anxiety going way up, which was extremely uncomfortable. So then it starts to be like, why would I even stop? But then you also don't want to feel stuck on something. So the first time that I tried that, I couldn't really do it. I just was like, I guess I just have to stay on this. And that wasn't a good feeling. That made me feel really worried. Meanwhile, I have some fears about withdrawal because of my phobia. Those of you who know my phobia, I didn't want to get physically sick, throwing up. And I had asked the person who prescribed these originally, which was the analyst who I've come to really not like. And he was like, no, I've never heard of that happening. But now I don't, because I didn't have any trust in him, and because I had heard other people did get sick from these things, I was like, how can I feel safe here? And then, of course, if you look on the internet, you can find horror stories anywhere. But here's the thing. I did read some of those horror stories, and I came to feel that if these things are possible, then there must be a mind-body component, and I need to at least try it. So as I started reducing this past year, I did get increased anxiety, and I started meditating twice a day in a way that I really wasn't doing kind of religiously. And that totally helped with the anxiety. But I just challenged myself to, maybe this is a trigger. Maybe this isn't going to lead to anything. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing on it. And between the meditation and pushing on the trigger, I had very, very little withdrawal response of any kind. So I don't know. My question is it possible that a lot of it is mind-body? I think it's more than possible. I think it's probable. But I also know that people can have pretty severe physiological problems coming off of benzos, for example, and it can be a pretty serious condition. So do it with medical supervision. But if you've got the medical supervision in place, you're safe. And then you can see what comes up, what symptoms come up, and try to challenge them. And you may have a much easier time. My hunch, yes, I think we could have a lot of success getting people successfully off of benzos and opioids using my techniques, as long as we are being medically safe. So I hope that answers the question, Dorothy. You said, or did you mean the fear of withdrawal? Listen, to me, they're kind of one and the same. The fear can become physiological. So I wasn't sure which was which. I wasn't sure if it would be medical or physiological or mind body, and I'm not even sure that the distinguishing makes any real difference. So hard to say. Okay, we've got another question from Linda Alarde. She says, my issue is that flares come and then persist. Yes. So Linda, the way to think about that is that the flares are the emotions column, but when they start persisting, they've entered the doubt column. So treat the initial flare by trying to deal with the emotions column. Pay attention to the timing of the symptom. See if you can figure out what was going on there. And then if they start to persist, then you start to articulate your doubts. What got you doubting that this would go away? Doubt is really, really tough in certain ways. I don't want to say that in such a way that makes it sound like it would be hard to make it go away, but it's always going to try to come back. So challenge the doubt and show some determination. I say this all the time. You have to be determined to beat TMS or mind-body issues or whatever we're going to call them. You have to be determined that you're going to beat them. And this goes back to Daphne's question. You also need to see them not as the enemy, but as something that's trying to send you a message about power. Jasper's making a comment, getting back to the exercise idea on Instagram. He said, I just added exercise to my action steps this week. That's great, Jasper. Let me know how that plays out for you. Just don't get hung up on any one thing. You want to get your system together. Cobble together the things that work and have them organized in the columns, and that will make it so that you really understand what it is that you're doing. All right, Terry's got a question on Instagram. I know a lot of the other experts in this TMS mind-body field talk about somatic tracking, which I'm not 100% clear on, but does your program or do you also work with that idea? So it's interesting. As you all know, I'm really not into labels. You know, what I do is 3 columns work. What I do is it relates to how I think about it. So somatic tracking, as I understand it, is you pay attention to different parts of your body and what you're experiencing, and you learn from those experiences. So it's related, And I think it's a good thing to do. I don't tend to do that directly, but when people are having a symptom, I do it. If they're like, oh, I'm feeling a pain here, I say, well, what's happening? So somatic tracking more is when you work with somebody to dive in on the active symptom as it's going on. Now, I do that if the symptom's going on, but I spend a lot of my time just educating how do we categorize these things and what do we do about them. So my work, unless I'm working with somebody really individually, it often is about doubt and power and the intellectual ideas that are going to get you through and understanding what is happening. Okay. Sarah Igo has joined on Instagram. Good to see you. People wave there. I don't know if they automatically wave or if they, it's funny. I'm a bit of a Luddite about these things. I'm like, do you wave actively on Instagram? I don't know. If you do, I want to make sure that I wave back. But if it's just automatic, then I feel, I guess I shouldn't be waving at you so much. Okay. Terry says, got it. And thank you. I like that idea. I'm glad to hear it. But you did have one other question, Terry, and then I'm going to get back to YouTube. You said observing and feeling safe when one isn't feeling symptoms. Observing and feeling safe when one isn't feeling symptoms. Terry, can you say more what you mean by that? I just want to make sure that I got your question. It may have been in response to something I was saying before, so I'll get back to you on that. Okay. Rhonda Johnson. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. She says, hi, Dr. Ratner. Can you comment on the meaning/purpose of recurring dreams? Okay, well, they're very similar to recurring symptoms. Your mind is trying to communicate something to you. There's something you're trying to say in conversation that you need communicated. So the thing about dreams that's not quite as easy as symptoms, which I call like a waking dream. Sarah Igo says the wave is automatic, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you for clarifying that, Sarah. Now I will know this forever. You're the one who educated me, Sarah. I appreciate it. So the difference between dreams and the waking dream of symptom life, is that it's much harder to get the message. The message dives into the unconscious like within seconds of you waking up if you don't rehearse it. And it's even more encoded in general. So dreams are very similar to symptoms. They're just a little harder to work with, I find. And I'm actually doing a presentation at a psychoanalytic conference this weekend. And one of the points that I'm going to make is that you can get much more information in the field of psychology from symptoms and what they're saying than from dreams. But if they're recurring, they mean something. Dreams do mean something, just like symptoms mean something. And you want to figure out what is the meaning of that. And I'm pretty adept at analyzing dreams as well. That was kind of some of what I did before I understood that you could use symptoms as a waking dream. Terry was clarifying that what I read was part of the first question, but I ran out of space to type. So I think that I have answered your question. We've got Sarah Fink joining us on Instagram. Good to see you, Sarah. I haven't seen you in a while. Very good to see you. Okay. We've got okay. Dorothy P says, thank you. So I think I answered her question. That's good. Linda Larde says, doubt is definitely a thing for me. When pain increases, I start feeling broken. Yes. I have to do so much self-talk and self-soothing. Okay. So yeah, what I would say to that, Linda, and this is something just to keep in mind to give you a sense that you're not doomed to this, is that the power column is what's going to get you out of that. The power column is what gives you a sense of safety in the long term, where you're not going to be stuck with this all the time. So doubt is always going to come back in. It's going to try and try and try. But the thing is, if you increase your power, then you won't have a sense that you're broken when it comes back in. You'll almost laugh at it. Some people actually describe that to me. They start laughing at the symptoms, and I certainly did at one point also. Now I'm past even laughing. I'm not even worried about it, generally speaking. But it is good to start laughing at them, to start to feel like, you know what, you're just trying to knock me out of my power. So the power column is what's going to work there. Okay, Linda had another comment about somatic tracking. Somatic tracking can work unless the pain is increasing. Then focusing on pleasant sensations is more soothing for me anyway. Okay, so that's a good point, actually. As far as I understand, sometimes somatic tracking can actually become overwhelming. And I think this is an important point within the field of mind-body work just in general. You have to understand what's working at a given time. Sometimes people say, no, you got to journal. Well, journaling's great, but it's not always the thing, because if you're not working in the emotions column, journaling can just get you more burrowed into that experience. Same thing with somatic tracking. If you are paying too much attention to your body and you are what I call like an attentional TMS person, where you can't get your mind off of the symptoms, I would not recommend somatic tracking for someone like that. But for somebody who doesn't know they're feeling so well and doesn't get kind of into that attentional loop, somatic tracking can be great. So it really depends on what works for you. Okay, question from Julie Ebby. Good to see you, Julie. She's in my seminars too, so shout out to you. So withdrawal from opioids, antidepressants alter your brain. What do you do to combat that feeling of something isn't right? Mind-body work only? Okay, Julie, I want to make sure that I understand your question. I'm going to answer it, but then I want you to tell me if I got it right. I wasn't sure if you're saying that withdrawal from opioids and antidepressants does alter your brain in a physiological way, which it does. But it also, the physiology of the mind-body experience can also alter the brain. So I wasn't sure which one you're referring to. I think you were actually saying the latter. So what you said, what do you do to combat that feeling of something isn't right? One of the things that we have to do in general is we always have to call into question, am I feeling this because something isn't right? Or am I feeling that something isn't right because I'm feeling something? So there's a big difference. And I want to encourage you, you're not going to hurt anything as long as you're paying attention, medically speaking. You're going to a doctor just to get cleared, first of all. Once you're past that, then you can start to get into the sense that I can challenge this. I can challenge the idea. Maybe the idea that something's not right doesn't mean that there isn't something right. So mind-body work only, your question is, Julie? I would say that's the place to start. But actually, the place to start is to check with your medical doctor, make sure there's no danger in withdrawing in some kind of physical way. But after that, mind-body work for sure. I also highly recommend meditation. Meditation is very, very good for when you're dealing with a situation like that. So try to think about it that way. And Julie, let me know if I answered your question. Here's a question. So serotonin levels don't need to be replaced. So you were actually saying the former. Serotonin levels do need to be replaced. And you probably will have some effect by it. I do not want to say that when you're getting off of things, there's no physiological experience, because that doesn't make sense. And you guys know me. I'm scientific. I'm logical. There is going to be an effect. The question, though, is we don't know how much. And so I would just call it into question. You don't think that the serotonin levels necessarily are so big of a deal, because remember, you have a lot of serotonin in your body. There's a ton of serotonin right in the gut. So I would just say we're overestimating how much of a response there necessarily needs to be. Okay, Terry says, oh my God, attentional TMS loop. That is so me. Yes, I have a video on the podcast about attentional issues, and we always use power to get out of that. So look for that on the website. Carolyn Arnaud, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Just want to say hi to you. Olivia Claire, want to say hi to you. Okay, Care Paravel. I believe in TMS and that this will help me, but I struggle with doing things. Why is the resistance to do the work so strong if I believe in it? I need to fix myself to be able to fix myself. Advice. First of all, it's brilliant the way you say it. I need to fix myself to be able to fix myself. Yes. This is power column work. Okay, so what we need to work on here is to get at the root of the conflict about getting better. A lot of times people, and when I say that, by the way, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about secondary gain. I don't believe that there are people who are somehow reveling in not feeling well. I really don't believe that. Very, very few people are like that, if at all. But the way to fix yourself in this regard to then be able to fix yourself is power column work. And the way to do that is you figure out your core narrative, which I'm happy to work with you on. I'm running my next seminar starting up June 28th. That's at 8 p.m. for the people who, want to come after their work. We wanted to make sure to give an evening one. You can still do the daytime one. We're five sessions in, but they're all on recording. So you can catch up. And if you want to do that, just let me know. You can certainly email me at dan@crushingdoubt.org. If you want to sign up for either of these, it's www.crushingdoubt.org. And we're going to continue doing these seminars. I am finding they are really powerful, and we're having a really good time. The group that I have going right now, I think they're getting a lot out of it. I'm learning a lot about how I can help them. And real shout out to them for giving me feedback and helping me understand what will work. So the resistance to do the work is strong for people, even if you believe in it, for a couple of reasons. And they're all the columns. Okay. So one is, it could be emotions column. It could be that there's a theme that you haven't discovered quite as much that's causing not just resistance, but actually some symptoms. Then doubt is going to cause resistance because it's going to try to get you to doubt any way that it can. This is a doubt that you're voicing. I understand it. It makes sense. Why is the resistance to do the work so strong if I believe in it? There's an underlying doubt there. The question is, am I ever going to be able to get past that? Or am I always going to be stuck in this loop? So doubt is trying to suck you back in. And then thirdly, in the relation to the power column, and I do believe this is the strongest one and the most important point, is develop your core narrative. Figure out who you are at base. Who are you really? And if you can understand that, you will understand why there may actually be some worry about becoming powerful. It's not actually so easy. You have to make a decision. So maybe you believe in these ideas. I mean, I can hear that you do, but maybe you believe in them even at the level you need to, and the doubt has largely been crushed. But what you need now is to make a decision to get better. Now, when I say that's actually a pretty controversial one. Sometimes people even get mad at me about it, and I'm not meaning to say, oh, you haven't made the decision to get better in some kind of judgmental way. It's more that there's a subtle way in which sometimes we haven't made that decision because there is a conflict. I was in conflict about becoming powerful. I can tell you, my whole life, I knew at some level that I was living my life thinking, as long as I'm just slightly less powerful than my older brother, I'm fine. Well, that's not where I am now. Where I am now is I'm allowed to be even more powerful than him if I decide to be. If he wants to be powerful, great. But I'm not limiting myself anymore, and I had to work through that. I had to get past that. So, Care Paravel, I would say that is, I hope I'm saying your name right, by the way, but let me know. But I think the key is to start thinking about what can I do to understand who I am and what I need and what conflicts I might have about being powerful, because it can be scary. That's a very long answer to your question, but hopefully it helped. Karen Isaacs, good to see you here. OMG, I've had 3 different theme dreams for many years. Okay, so this is a response to the theme question that I think it was Rhonda had asked. Yes, Rhonda Johnson. We got 2 Rhondas on here. So she says, one has been for about 30 years. It involves going to the bathroom. Oh, I know somebody else who had that recurrent theme. That's interesting. I'll email her on the side to point that out. Other theme I had involving moving to a huge old house that needs so much work. Oh, boy. So here's the thing. All of the imagery in dreams tends to relate to the self. So if you're moving to a huge old house that needs so much work, that huge old house is you. Going to the bathroom, that could be about many different things, but you want to think about how does it relate to me? Just like you want to think, how did the symptoms relate to me? Okay, Ron Johnson says, thank you. I find that once I get the message, they go away. Yep. I have one recurring dream that I just can't seem to understand. Well, Rhonda, I'm happy to talk with you about that recurring dream at some point. You can bring it to the group here if you want. I understand it can feel, some people may feel more safe or not sharing that kind of information, but however you want to do it, if we get you the message, what it was, they will go away because that's what they're for. They're trying to get a message across. If they're received, it's all set. Okay, Linda says, thanks. We'll focus on power and see if that helps. Good. All right, Julie says, love Dan's seminar. Thank you for the shout out, Julie. Highlight of my day. Thank you so much for all your help and kindness. My pleasure, Julie, and I'm glad we're making good progress with you and many of the other people there. Okay, Terry on Instagram is saying, what you said about power in relation to your brother really resonated with me. Thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, this is why I share these things. You know, I talk openly about my own life for multiple reasons, but one of them is that I know that it makes a big difference to people to feel like they can A, relate to me, and B, relate to themselves, to hear these stories and recognize there are so many ways in which we are sometimes limiting our own power, and for good reason. You know, it can be scary. If you become powerful, it could change relationships. I have had some important relationships kind of come crashing to an end from me becoming powerful. But what does that tell you? What's good about that relationship if my becoming powerful is a problem for that person? If my becoming powerful is a problem for that person, then I don't want that person in my life. I really don't. And I have found that I have kind of doubled down on the good relationships in my life. I've taken the toxic ones out. I did a podcast recently on toxic relationships. Well, I was thinking about some of those people as I was talking. So you are welcome, Terry. I'm glad that resonated with you. Okay, Dorothy P. says, I find the concept of core narrative confusing. It can be. I'm happy to explain it. The PDFs are good, but I have not gotten that clearly. I find filling in columns confusing too. I may join seminars on the 28th if that will help. Dorothy, it will definitely help. Joining the seminars, and if people from the seminars are willing to talk about it, I think they'll be able to tell you what's in there, maybe even better than I can. But I will tell you that the seminars go through it in great detail, and they also just the concentrated information is particularly helpful. I think it's very important for people who are finding it confusing to attend the seminars because they really bring it all together in a very concentrated way. And so that is something I would definitely recommend. I'll help you with this one way or another, Dorothy, but I think the best way is the seminar because it's 8 days over a 2-week period, you know, usually in an 11-day window. That's capturing you a lot of information. And it makes it clear which columns you're working in and why. So, but briefly, I'll just give you a brief bit of information about it. I see positively Whitney says she joined the seminars. I think that's what you're referring to. And Mind Body Faith Fitness saying joined also. Oh no, they just joined Instagram. I see. I misread that. Hilarious. I keep misunderstanding Instagram. Well, if you want to join the seminars, please do. Dorothy, I think definitely join the seminars, but briefly what I was saying, the emotions column is about getting your main themes articulated, and then they just stay there for you to check out the onset and uptick in symptoms. The doubt column, you raise all the doubts you have, you get those questions answered, you get the fears answered. Eventually, the doubt column is supposed to be shrunk to nothing. And the power column is about getting that core narrative, which I know you found confusing, so we'll work on it. And then talking about the ways you feel powerful with yourself, with others, and your symptoms. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I try to keep it really simple and clear. I know it's not always something that people can get clarified, but the seminars will do a lot in getting that clarified. Dorothy, highly recommend them. Linda Larde says, when you were struggling with back pain, was it pretty constant or did it come and go? How did you mentally frame your experience, and did you find it challenging to find what worked for you? My back pain was every day. It would come and go in intensity, some, but it was constant every single second of that entire 8-year period. The only exception was one day it went away some. I kind of know why, but that was emotion work and maybe my doubt had come down some. But I mentally framed the experience not in a great way because it was only once I discovered Sarno that I could begin to frame it right. And once I began to frame it right, I was already on my way. So I wasn't in a good mind frame, Linda, when that was going on. I found it extremely challenging to find what worked for you. It was once I discovered Sarno that I had lots of hope. It wasn't easy, but I did find that I had ways of starting to deal with it once I discovered Sarno. Without a mind body experience, I was totally lost. I just felt like the world had gone crazy. There was no information for me. There was no help for me. There was no empathy for me. It was a pretty hopeless and bad time. But Linda, if you're talking about after I discovered Sarno, I'll re-answer that question. So let me know. We're going to take just a couple more questions and we'll wrap up for today. But then I'm back here every week, same time. Okay, we've got Rhonda Galone. Hi, Rhonda. I had a really weird dream the other night. Oh, we got both Rhondas dreaming. It was about tattoos that were outlined in nails on me. Eek. And then my daughter, a few days later, texted me a picture of her new tattoo. So freaky. Actually, it's really interesting. There are times where you can see dreams can feel predictive. What that often is that unconsciously you were probably aware of something. Maybe you had overheard a conversation or you caught a glimpse of an email or a text or something like that. So there was some awareness. Rana, my guess is that you did have some awareness of that in some way. I know for sure that you did not manifest that. Dreams don't make things happen, but at the same time, dreaming things does help make things happen. So it's a tricky way of thinking about it. But I'm wondering, it was about tattoos that were outlined in nails on me. Well, Rana, I would say, here's the other thing about dreams. What they mean all depends on what they mean to you. And so if we do a little bit of work to find out more about that, and, I would love it if you would come back next week and actually tell us what you found out about the dream, even if you don't find anything. That's okay. So thank you for sharing. And that is freaky, though. It could feel really weird. Okay. Dorothy's saying, okay, Greg had reached out for me on the Facebook group. We do have a Facebook group, the Mind Body Connection. There's the Facebook page for Crushing Doubt, but there's also the Mind Body Connection. And that's a group where a lot of people post on things and they answer each other's questions. It can be very helpful. I mentioned I wanted to use the PDFs first, but now feel joining 28th best. I really think so, Dorothy. I'm right there with you. Julie says, Dorothy P., there's so much information. The seminar breaks down all the PDFs and much more. Thank you, Julie. And yes, I totally agree with you. Linda Alarde says, I'm sorry you had to suffer that long, but you nailed it and get to help the rest of us move forward. Yep, absolutely, Linda. All that suffering, I was gathering information. I didn't think I was. I just thought I was suffering and feeling there was no point. We are going to have to wrap in a minute here, but all of that suffering did well for all of us. It got me asking so many questions. It got me recognizing that there were so many people not answering the questions fully to my satisfaction, and there was no reason that would be. Jasper, I see you're there on the 28th also. That's great. Look forward to doing that next seminar. I'm loving the seminar. It's really, really fun to be getting people the information they need. Okay, last comments here. Rhonda Galone says, thank you. You're welcome. Diehard Patriot, who I know is named Joseph. Good to see you, Joseph. He says, and this is the last one we'll do today, and then we'll get to things next time. How to healthily manage multiple desires. I have many interests which stresses me out because I know I cannot accomplish or fulfill them all at once. By the way, love you, Dan, and hello. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Right back at you. Now, I would say if you want to manage multiple desires, here's the thing. You're a moment-to-moment being, so be a moment-to-moment being. Go with the desire that matches that moment. Sometimes I want to write a song, and sometimes I want to go to sleep. Sometimes I want to eat food. Sometimes I want to hang out with my girls. Sometimes I want to read a book. It's all over the place. Go with who you are in that moment. If you keep doing that, you'll be fine. I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but I know it works well for me, and I hope that works well for you. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in here and asking such great questions as always. It's always a highlight of the week to interact with you guys just at all. The seminars have been great. I get to work with a specific group of people. This is nice. There's so many great ways that I get to interact with people. We do have that on that Facebook group, the Mind Body Connection. We do have a weekly meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, and it's really just a check-in to find out how people are doing. And I can offer advice there. I try to have lots of ways to be available to you guys, and it's an honor to have you guys as part of my community. Oh, good. I got Care Paravel's name right. Good. Excellent. And Julie says, thank you again. Thank you. Dorothy says, these sessions are very helpful. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Dorothy. And my pleasure, everybody. I will be back here same time next week. Mondays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And if you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally. If you are listening to this, if you are open to it, give us a 5-star written review on the audio side of things. That's where 5-star written reviews are possible, and that really helps us get attention, and that will help us in the national discussion. And I appreciate you all. Looking forward to seeing you again and talking to you again next week.